Welcome to the Blue Madness Podcast, a production of Dodgers 2080. This is Tim Rogers, and we are here to talk about your 2024 World Champion Dodgers. And what we're doing today is a little bit different. We're going to do a reaction video. We've only done one or two of those before, but we're going to react to the Bleacher Report's the one and only Mookie Betts interviewing his own manager, Dave Roberts. And I found it fascinating. There'll be a lot of interruptions in it. Got to watch out for those little copyright things and all that, and the claims and all that. So I'm hoping to avoid all those things, but I will be like going through the video and stopping it and talking about things. I highly recommend before you watch the rest of this video that you stop and you go watch the video that I will have in the link of the Bleacher Report thing. Watch it for yourself, have some thoughts, then I'm going to then come back to this thing later and watch it, and you can see the thoughts and see how you agree, make some comments, all that stuff. There are no wrong answers with these things. The right answer is the Dodgers in 5. We have that for us. So, other than that, enjoy. Thank you. So, we're going to be diving right into the part where they talk about the 2024 postseason. Here we go. Dookie Butts and Doc.
All right, so enough of that game. What about this? I want to take me through those 10, 15, 20 seconds of Walker striking out the last guy immediately after. The weight just fall off your shoulders. What was it?
You know what? It was when we won it in 20, it was like relief, and I couldn't even enjoy it. But this one, when Walker punched out Verdugo, it was pure joy, elation, and I'm still enjoying it, Mook.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. The relief. I know that when we saw Clayton Kershaw talked about the same thing, just this big relief, this big burden off them in 2020. Remember, and Doc's going to talk later more about 2020, and you'll see that as we go. But I think it's important to realize just the difference that those two championships made. I know, people say Mickey Mouse and all that. So, whatever, that's an opinion. This channel does not hold to that. And Doc will explain later why that is.
I'm telling you, and it's like we've had all these haters and tell us this or that and the other and all this noise that I always try to, get you guys to block out. And so once he made that last pitch.
I hate the term haters. Just because you question something or disagree with something doesn't mean you're a hater. Doc, stop trying to be a kid. Stop with the hater stuff. No one's a hater just because they disagree.
I just look to the skies and look to my father who's resting peacefully up there in heaven, and I couldn't be happier.
I wanna talk about that playoff series there, or not even that series, but the whole playoffs really going in late into the season. We're still playing, so that was a good change.
Mookie does a really good job. You can see he starts with kind of that end, and now he's going to the beginning. He's really good at this.
For us, because the last couple years we got put out early, but we had won the division kind of. Still playing. Really I ain't gonna say one series off, but it was just the last series, and we're going to got San Diego. And they really kicked their ass all year.
All year.
So how were you feeling about it? From your perspective?
I felt from my perspective that was the World Series. I felt that at that moment in time, when we started the postseason, they were 1 through 26, the best team.
100%.
Now do you see why some of us said how we thought the Padres could win? Even the Dodgers, they felt that was the best team. Those are facts. Alana Rizzo, stop giving her crap about that. And, with my head, I predicted the Padres would win, my heart with the Dodgers. But that's, the facts are that the Padres are a really good team. Dodgers found a way.
And when you play a team as much as we played those guys, the novelty, the awe factor, that was all gone. They were no longer afraid of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's called little brother growing up. So they Padres felt I think they still probably feel they were the better team. They should have won, and maybe they should have. But that when you don't get hits for 24 or any runs for 24 innings, you deserve to lose.
We're familiar. They beat us up in the regular season, so they were hungry. They hadn't won a championship, so I felt that was going to be our biggest challenge, especially in a short series. And so when we got down 2-1.
And we had already gotten put out the last 2 years, so that was already way
That's right. That was already
extra.
A burden that we had to deal with.
That burden was huge. Now, I had heard somewhere that Doc felt that he might get fired if they didn't win that series. That's not mentioned in this thing, but I had heard he was worried. He was actually thinking about that. It was huge. This channel was very hard on them, for sure. Systematic failure. Those are terms that were used, and it was. So it was interesting, when we heard from Muncie how they made some changes.
And so for me, that was the World Series. And so a lot of my angst and nerves were into that series.
And then down 2-1, like you said, I want to hear from your perspective, but from my perspective, it seemed like a regular.
Seems like they got a little edit out of that. Seemed like there was more. They took it out right after he said down 2-1. I wonder what they said. Wish we knew, but here we go.
In July, like there was no panic. You were still being yourself. The guys were still laughing, hanging out, but everybody was in intense, making sure they take care of their business. But I didn't feel any panic going on around the clubhouse, and I feel like that played a part, but I did feel intensity. But I want to hear from your perspective what you felt.
I think that I agree. I did feel the focus. There wasn't panic, certainly. I think that when we went in there 2 years ago, I think that there was a little bit of, we were overwhelmed by the environment. Mm-hmm. I think that.
That's interesting. See, until this interview, I hadn't heard that before. But, hey, shout out to the Padre fans for creating an environment that is good for their team. I mean, that's just is what it is.
It was mayhem. It was crazy down there. It was loud. And they fed off of that, as most teams feed off the home crowd. I just felt, though, in Game 4, we were ready, and you and I had talked about it, we were ready to brawl. And we were going to find a way to win that game. And we did. And I just think that they're kind of...
And that was a bullpen game.
It was a bullpen game. And I just think that the way they go about things is a street fight, and they try to intimidate, and we were up for the challenge. Mm-hmm. And we took their best shot and counterpunched. And we got big hits, big performances. And I just think from that point on, Mook, the confidence in you, your teammates, the organization, the fans just continued to grow. And then once we got to Game 5 and we took that lead, I just felt that those guys had no answer for us.
Yeah.
The street brawl. I mean, there you go. That's the Padres. They play, with an intensity. Same time, they got punched in the mouth by the Dodgers and they didn't recover. So you get the super highs and the super lows. One thing, and it wasn't recorded, that at least we saw. Schilt putting out Dylan Cease was just the ultimate stupidity. They had Martin Perez. They should have gone to the bullpen game. They had the bullpen to do it, but instead they went with a guy on short rest and hadn't done well ever in the playoffs. Thank you very much, Mark Schilt.
That was, and then our guys were. It's like everybody was just locked in, man. Everybody was just locked in.
And it's crazy though, is that like when you see talent and then you see the group locked in together and you know that they're not scared and they're going to fight back. It's like I remember when seeing Mike Tyson, dude, when Buster Douglas knocked Mike Tyson on his butt, Mike Tyson was like, I've never experienced anything like this, and he didn't know what to do. But then when you get a champion and you can knock them down and they get back up and fight back, then you're like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I felt they were at.
And yeah.
Yeah, the Padres had the Dodgers reeling a bit after Game 3, but man, it's good to see that team really gelled, and that's part of the reason I want a lot of these guys, some of the same guys back. Not that you're going to repeat the chemistry, but you have at least the characters to go put that together and make another run. That happens. The Giants did that 3 out of 5 years. The Yankees would do that back in the late 90s, early, in the year 2000.
I agree. That was, and then so we go in and we play the Mets, which I felt like was a much less emotional series for us. Like coming down, just playing the Padres, it felt more like regular baseball is wrong, but the Padres series felt like an emotional battle. Maybe like winter ball. I've never played winter ball, but the emotions back and forth, the pimping of homers, the pimping of strikeouts, the knowledge of each other felt like winter ball a little bit. And then going into the Mets, it felt like, okay, we got to relearn who we're playing against. It's a different style of ball. I don't know. I wonder if you're from your perspective.
I love that.
Familiarity breeds contempt. At least with the Padres, the Dodgers got past it just in time, didn't they? Yeah.
And not even to mention all the stuff that went on with the fans.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Profar in the stands, and then the stuff with Machado.
Yeah.
It was like a winter ball kind of,
exactly.
Gloves are off. We're doing whatever it takes to get a competitive advantage. The psyche part of it all played a part in that. And yeah, we're going into a different series and trying to figure out what's the best way to prepare.
Stoners out there, fair use, fair use, fair use.
For the Mets. But this is a team that was the best team in the second half in all of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They were living with this whole gremlin thing or whatever the heck they had going on, that they were trying to vibe off that.
Yeah.
But I think for us, it was a different type series, but certainly not even close as emotional. Vibing off the grimace just gets silly. But yeah, so obviously the Dodgers went through the Padres, who were probably the best team in baseball at that moment when the playoffs started. And when they were coming into Los Angeles, they were all hot and heavy after beating the Braves. I know they lost Musgrove, but they had Martin Perez if they needed him. They're just stupid not to use him in Game 4. And then you got the Mets, who were, basically one of the best teams in baseball since June, or maybe the best. I don't know. I think the Padres had a better record though since the All-Star break. I think that's what it was. Here we go.
Oh, it wasn't, but it was fun. And then going in, we played well there. And then going into the Yankee series, we go up 3-0, which was crazy in itself. And then we lose Game 4. And then we're down 5-0 Game 5, right? I mean, everything before then is kind of, whatever. But now we're down.
Here we go. I was there. Thank goodness.
Nothing Game 5, and you have a unique perspective because you've been on the other side, down 0-3, and you won a game. And now, being on the Dodger, you're down 5-0, and you've been on the other side like smelling blood, like we gotta go. So I want to hear both sides, because being down 5-0 there, I'm like, okay, I don't want to go back to LA. If we have to, cool. But like, we got to figure out something. And you managed that game differently. And so
this is where you get the most unique perspective right here. Dave Roberts, a member of the 2004 Red Sox, had the key steal. They ended up, scoring, and David Ortiz hitting the game winner. And now he's the manager, being up 3-0 and knowing the dangers.
Did, Mook, and because I have been on the other side of it, and when you're down 3-0, you're at the point where you have nothing to lose now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who was favored. who wasn't. When you're down 3-0, everyone is expecting you to lose anyway. So now that, for me, it's freeing. And so they played free, won game 4. And I will tell you this now publicly, I was so afraid to come back to Los Angeles for game 6, knowing we still had Yamamoto in our back pocket. But the point being is that if we were to come back, the noise, the pressure becomes real. Because then you're going to start potentially being part of history in the wrong way, a team that gave up a 3-0, because it's never been done in the World Series. We did it in the ALCS, the Yankees versus the Red Sox. And so for me,
See, that's the thing. Doc understands as a player, and he's seen the managing. This is 9th full year managing. And he understands these momentum swings and human nature. That's one of the gifts that he has as a human being, and that helps him helps him in his management, the way he manages.
that was the fear of going back. So to your point, yes, I managed with urgency. Even when we were down 5-0, I didn't know how we were going to finish this dang game.
And going in through that game, you get to the 5th inning, and, I've talked about it, but from a managing perspective, I want to hear your perspective on how that 5th inning played out.
I just felt that we're down 5-0, and as that 5th inning started, truth be told, I'm really trying to think about how to really best equip ourselves for game 6, because they were going to have to exhaust everything.
And Cole was shoving.
I mean, at that point in time, he had a no-hitter.
Yeah.
And so he was shoving. And so for me, Kike leads off with a base hit. Tommy hits a unassuming fly ball, and it gets dropped. And then there's a ball that's not made off Will Smith's bat in the hole, and it's like, uh-oh. And here,
Yeah. All of a sudden, Doc he's thinking, hey, we got to get ready for a game 6 possibly. And he has to think about that. He may not have let it on to the team, but that's got to be in his head. And he's probably going in his head, oh, do I, bring out Ben Kasparius? And he couldn't have gone with Honeywell. He had thrown 50 pitches in 1 inning. Kasparius probably was his other guy, and so let's hear the rest here.
you come up and you leg out. And the thing is that's what people don't get, is that Kike makes a turn around, bends it to make it a little bit more difficult play for Volpe. And if you go back and you watch that play, that's a very heady baseball play. And another one for you is you cue the ball off the end of the bat, but instead of putting your head down and being upset with yourself, you run a hard 90, and the game honored you. And that's what I talk a lot about. So those are things that, they caused some trouble for themselves, but we took advantage of for the way we play baseball, right? And so as you guys started clawing your way back, my thought now shifted to
that whole Yankees philosophy of talent over fundamentals. You got to have both. And then you've got, Kike Hernandez is one of the smartest baseball players in baseball. He's a goofball, you'd think, but not on the field, not when it matters. He is such an important brain out there. Here we go some more. Fair use.
they fought their way back. I've got to now be all in on how I manage the rest of this game.
And because it went from, I got to prepare how we're going to look for game 6 to we can win this one. And so that a lot of your decisions change at that point. Then Freddie gets a hit, and it's 1st and 3rd, and Teo's up. Tell me your perspective on.
You're going to want Teo really bad.
On Teo, because, I played with Teo since I was in Boston. He was in Toronto.
Wow.
And which is a long time. And we've been together for a while, and seeing the progression of Teo, seeing what he was to like a fast didn't hit for power much, really had a lot of swing and miss in his game, but he's a good player. To now, this is Teoscar.
Ooh.
I want to hear like your perspective on what he meant for us.
Yeah, Teo's really evolved, and he's still fast. You just got to use it on defense better, and he's still got some swing and miss. But the guy crushes the ball. He's got some good baseball savant stats.
I think it starts from the beginning, in the sense of my beginning with Teo, as far as betting on himself. I said it in spring training. This is a man that left a lot of money on the table to be in a place where he wanted to be, Los Angeles, to be around players like yourself so he can learn and get better. And there's nothing more powerful than betting on yourself and making sacrifices, whatever it might be. Money, time, family. And that's what Teo did. And so right there, he earned my respect from the get-go. And then from that point on, I've just really never been around a guy who is that mentally consistent on the daily. Mm-hmm. Every single day, good, bad, indifferent, he comes in as the same guy. And I just knew that a guy like that you can count on in the biggest of spots, and that's what he did.
He probably was just chilling.
He was.
He probably was just in the box, just like, I don't even care.
No, you're right.
Even though he cares, he's a dog,
course.
right? But like...
But that's like something that anyone can tell themselves that that's how they want to be. But there's something innate with Teo in that heartbeat just doesn't rise too much where he starts to panic and get nervous.
And man,
that's why Teo is a guy that you want on the postseason roster. Him and Kike, they got that vibe about him. And it seems like Freddie has it. Mookie's found it back. These guys, man, you need them. But hey, at the same time, Juan Soto has the same thing. I'm not sure about Willy Adames, though. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs that goes, ooh, we got to get this guy. Regular season's fine, but, man, I want postseason players. Tommy Edman, too. Look at that guy.
And he came up and he hit it.
1-2 slider, good pitch, 2 outs, 2 strikes. And I mean, Freddie's hit was huge, but that put us ahead.
And when the game is tied there, tied the game, and now it's the 5th inning. Is that like from a manager perspective? Because I want to know, is that like, okay, I have to I need a second to completely flip my brain into thinking about how I'm going to get us through this.
Absolutely.
I just make the speed a little faster. Let's see how that goes.
Because you can even look back, and as people will go back, I brought in Bonda earlier, and he couldn't go as long as I'd hoped. So then I couldn't extend him, and I brought in Kopi. He couldn't go longer. So
Money Mike, Kopi, that's Kopech.
And then also the other one was we had Bazooka, Gratterall, and that was a first and second base, 2 outs. I felt that at that point in time, that was the game. So I brought in Trinan right there to get Volpe. And so I just felt that Bazooka did everything he could possibly do for us. I had to stop the momentum because the postseason, as I've been fortunate enough as you, we've been a part of a lot of postseasons, and the postseason is about momentum. Mm-hmm. And if you look at all these games from the DS to the CS to the World Series, I tried to do everything in my power to stop the momentum. And
he really read that one correctly, too. I mean, the Yankees had gotten that run, and they had to stop them. And Trinan did his voodoo.
And not let the other team gain momentum. And so right there, bringing in Blake. But then at that point in time, honestly, Mookie, I didn't know how I was going to finish that game. And still knowing I had Walker potentially in my back pocket, but that's only for 1 inning in a plus game.
So Trinan, really, Trinan was kind of it.
He was it.
And that's how, and so when you went out and talked to him, and did you think about taking him out? Were you thinking about taking him out?
No.
So you went out.
I didn't have a choice. He was going to stay in that game. So at that point in time, there was nothing. I didn't do anything good right there. What I did do is I tried to slow the moment down, and I tried to give him a breath. And I wanted to put hands on him, as you know. I like to put hands on people. So I'm out there. I put both my hands on his chest, and I wanted to look him in the eye. And I wanted to look him in the eye like I did right there, and said, "Hey, man, what do you got? You got any more in there?" And he said, "This is my guy. I want Stanton." And so the interesting thing is, I was expecting Daniel Hudson to be ready at that for the next hitter, Rizzo, because he had already thrown close to 40 pitches. And I'm also trying to be mindful of a player's health. And then so after he gets Stanton to pop up, Mook, I'm waiting for him to look at me because there's only one pitch. But I did tell him one hitter. And so he didn't look at me. Because if he looked at me, I was going to go get him. He did not look at me. I'm on the top step, and then Freddie is at first base, subtly, respectfully, moving his glove like, let him get him, let him get him.
Oh, wow.
Let him
So
get
Freddie
him.
played a part in this.
So Freddie played a part in this. And then so you know what? I looked at Freddie. Blake didn't look at me, and I go, the right decision is to stand down and let him get him.
So what?
Isn't that awesome? Can you feel it, folks? Can you feel it? What Doc was going through and all that stuff, and the whole touching him and all. It's just Doc's got his little magic. He brings a vibe out, but to hear that little thing about Freddie is pretty cool, and how Doc is honoring the game here and honoring the people that he's trusting.
Did you have before, in years prior, would you have went and got him no matter what?
In years prior, I would have got him no matter what.
And why is that? Because of is that just like
it's more of a feel thing.
Okay.
It's more of a feel thing, and I just felt that he was, for me, and no disrespect to anybody else, I just felt in that moment we were going to live or die with Blake Trinan on the mound, and I had to trust him.
And you went through making the right decision, making the wrong decision, so it's not like one of those things. It was just what you felt in that time, and what you felt in that time was right with him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then going in, no matter what, Walker Buehler has a ninth. How'd you feel about that?
I just felt that.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of chilling the how it all happened, and the faith and that he had, and just the way he was trying to read the vibe and read the momentum and things like that. Just amazing.
No matter what, with a lead, Walker was going to have the ninth.
And how did you feel about running him out there with one, especially with the way he had been pitching?
With the way he'd been pitching, I felt really good about it. But again, I was willing to take on the cost of a potential Game 7 by running Walker out there. He wanted it. He's been there before. And honestly, I just felt right then that was our best option to win the World Series.
And we did.
They pulled all the right levers in this one. And, but the thing is, Doc pulled the levers, but there's free agents that, right? Walker Buehler and Blake Trinan and Teoscar Hernandez all really came through. It's like, man, I want all three of them.
Speaking of winning the World Series, the process of winning the World Series, playing the regular season, right? And through this regular season, we had like a record of injuries. And, from my perspective, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know who these guys were that you were putting on the mound. I'm like, we don't even have guys to finish games, and we just have to pick up a guy for today. And then
transitioning away a bit from the playoffs, but now they're talking about the injuries and some of the stories that related to that.
You know how it is. And so, is that hard? Is it hard to how hard is it to manage that?
You know what? This was certainly my most trying year. Obviously, when you look back, it's my most gratifying and satisfying year. I think, Mook, it's one of those things where, again, it goes back to your question earlier about what's more satisfying, winning it all as a player versus as a manager. Because I can't control, you can't control the injuries, but I have to be able to control the mindset of the players to keep things moving forward.
I think one of the things that, for me, that I saw the whole year, not just from Doc and everyone else, including a lot of the fans, we never made excuses. No matter what, going to the playoffs, yeah, we go, oh man, I wish we had Glasnow, I wish we had this, that. But at the end of the day, we just go, there are no excuses. Win or lose, if they would have lost, it still would have sucked, and we would have blamed the crap out of people. There was no excuses. Potter's like, oh my gosh, Musgrove went down. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing compared to what the Dodgers went through this season, and even going into the postseason. At least the Padres got one start out of Musgrove. No excuses. Excuses are for losers.
And so this year, I've said it many times over, this has been my favorite team because it was the trust that you guys had in me. And regardless of who we ran out there in a lineup, who we ran out there to finish a game or throw innings, and I know there's times you were in the outfield going, I have no idea who this guy is that's coming out of the bullpen. But you
Isn't that crazy? There was what we had over 40 pitchers come out, at least 40, and it's pretty funny.
You guys had the trust in me and the organization to say, you know what, it's what we got, and we're gonna ride and we're gonna roll with it.
And you remember going in because we were really okay. Like we had a lot of injuries, but we were really okay. And then Glass goes down, and when Glass goes down, that's when it was like, ooh.
Yeah, this is we started to hear about these things, about what happened and all that, and how they reacted. But it's very interesting, and this a lot of stuff coming up. It's gonna blow you away.
That hurts because I don't know how we're gonna, because Walker hadn't become Walker yet. And that's the day, and we'll talk about that. Walker hadn't become Walker yet. Yoshi was hurt or coming back maybe.
Coming back.
We had just traded for Jack. We were like, I don't even know who's gonna be in there.
Glass was supposed to be our guy.
He was supposed to be our guy, and with him, everything was gonna be cool. He gets hurt. Then we have a meeting. You call a meeting, and in that meeting, you kind of gave us some words of encouragement. Do you want to speak on the meeting? Kind of what you kind of told us about it? Okay, yeah, real quick. Like from what I heard was, really some words of encouragement. You really let us know that you still believed in us. Like even though you could argue that it was fake with this X, Y,
no excuses.
Z at the time, because we could have been really emotional losing Glass at that time, but you still believed in us, and you felt it in the message.
I did. I've told you guys and people that know me, I'm not a big meeting guy. I just feel that the players, I like to have one-off conversations. I like the one-on-ones, or, get in the outfield or get in the infield and, talk like that, have good casual conversations. But there was a lot of talk, even, leading up when we signed him, that he was going to be our guy going through the postseason. Mm-hmm. And so even when he was hurt, all we heard was, and even from Tyler himself, is like, I'm just going to be ready for the postseason. And then so when you're thinking about the postseason, you're always thinking about that big dog, that horse to lead the rotation, to anchor the rotation. And then once we lost that, I just felt the air come out of the.
Just start Glass now, just to have him start throwing in July or August. Glass is a pretty good name. I mean, the guy does break, but he's really good. And to get 2 to 3 months of him and then the playoffs, that might be all we need. I think it's just a good 3 months. Remember, he kind of broke down right before the All-Star break. So you might, do a little bit in April and May, shut him down, and then bring him back August, start gearing him up again, starts rolling full strength in mid-September.
And so we ended up losing that night. And then so I just contemplated, I really did, Mook, I think this is the time for us to have a meeting. I need to kind of get the guys together and say we have enough. And I will tell you this, is that it was premeditated in the sense that Walker wasn't Walker at that time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to challenge him.
You called him out in front
of everybody. But I knew that I had already been with him for 6 years, that we had that relationship for 7 years, that I could do that, and he would take it as respect and knowing what I thought he could do. Mm-hmm. And we needed Walker to be Walker right then, to give us a chance to win the World Series.
He was pitching the next day.
He was pitching that night.
Or was it that night?
It was that night.
Oh, yeah, because we had the meeting before.
That's right.
And you said, we need you to step up.
And get on a heater right now.
You literally told someone, I need you to get on a heater.
And I've never done that.
I've never heard that.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? And look how he ended up getting rewarded. Amazing. Fair use.
Because
I've never heard that before.
But he and I have that relationship where I needed him to hear it from me in front of his teammates. And I felt that he was one person I felt that could rise to the occasion and that could rise to that challenge.
I want to know what his numbers were after you told him, I need you to get on a heater. Next time, if you see me struggling a little bit, can you just tell me I need you to get on a heater? If it works that easy.
It's going to happen next year. At some point in time, I'm going to have to get on you, and you're going to wonder if you can ever get a hit again. And so there you go. You got it.
And then one last on injury front. Then Freddie hurts his ankle right before playoffs. And that's a tough way for you to manage, because it's like, okay, you got Freddie Freeman, who won MVP on one leg, but also he couldn't really walk. So how do you balance putting him in the lineup versus managing this man's health?
Freddie Freeman, what a story that's become.
His own personal, how do you manage straddling that fence? Because you got the Dodgers to win a World Series, but you also got Freddie Freeman, who, if you know Freddie Freeman, one of the most beautiful human beings of all time.
I think the health of the player is always my number one focus. Mm-hmm. And so that part was actually really easy.
That's good. You can see there's other teams that don't do that. You can see that with that guy. Oh, Padres left-hander Ryan, whatever. He's with the Marlins now. You can see what they did with him, and yeah, and they've done that with other stuff. But the Dodgers and Dave Roberts leading that, he runs it differently.
The harder part, which I think at that point in time in the season, we collectively got to a point where we weren't going to be denied this year. And there weren't excuses where in life, in past teams, people always look for an out on why you potentially might or might not succeed. And with this team, it didn't matter if we lost Tyler, all these guys that we lost Freddie for a minute. Whatever we had that night was going to be good enough for us to win a baseball game. And
remember, Freddie sat in 3 different games in the playoffs, and the Dodgers won them all. That shows what the team's made out of. To lose an MVP caliber guy and still take care of business with the Padres and the Yankees. I mean, the Mets. And then Freddie was better against the Yankees.
So whether Freddie, had to take time with his family, Freddie had to take time with his ankle, it killed him more than anyone. But I just felt that in the room, we all believed that we're going to pick him up because he's picked us up. And sure enough, when you get to the World Series, he goes and shows out and he picks us up. So that's why this team was just different, Mook.
He really did pick him up, didn't he? Freddie Freeman, man.
And I think that, and I do believe the fans saw a different sort of demeanor fight from this 2024 Dodger Ball Club.
I think if you didn't see that, I don't know what you're watching, but you saw this team fight. And there was a few times during the season, there was like a time in June where they just kind of stopped. And they seemed kind of to play like it was October. But that's where you started to see the bend but don't break with these guys. And that's what I was starting to say during the playoffs. They bend but don't break. And they found ways. They found it by barely winning the division. They got close. Got to last week. So, man, bend but don't break. This team showed a lot of character. There was a lot of times when the score might have been down 6-2 during a game, and they weren't out of it most of the time. Again, there's a few times they seemed to mail it in, but 162 games is a long season. So this team had some fight. It's good to see.
But I think that kind of started with you, though, because I feel like the way you pushed the buttons, the way you put us in the right spot, the way you told us all how you're going to use, this is how I'm going to do this is how I'm going to do that. All I need for you to do is this. I need you to do that. What you demanded from us. Like, even in BP, like, people don't see, but in BP, you challenge us to get hits. You challenge guys, hey, I want you to get this guy out. Just stuff like that. But, all that you did, I think, set the tone. It was really, so all that fierce, especially during the Padres series, I really feel like it could have been really easy for us to be out of character.
Yep.
Especially with all that was going on. But you really you never broke, and I feel like that held us all together.
This team, I will say this, and for you to
leadership
say that is, when you do this job, there's a lot of, I sign up for taking the bullets for players to protect them. My job
and to take bullets for the front office
is when things go well, the players get the adoration and credit, as they should. It's a player's game. And when things don't go well, I could have probably done something different. And again, that's my job. But for you to say that goes so deep in my soul. I will say that this is the one team that's really mirrored my personality. And that's where I do believe that the respect on how we play the game, how we should honor the game, the responsibility of wearing our Dodger uniform, what that means. I don't like excuses. Our team did not make excuses. How we honor the game, how we play together, selfless, how we're tough. We fight when we need to fight. That's who I am intrinsically.
Again, hoping we can retain a lot of our free agents that played key roles in this thing, because that's part of what, Doc's saying. This team mirrored him as his personality. And to see that, bring those guys back. But also make sure that you're seeing people that really, as you bring them in, I want to make sure that, if they're going to sign a free agent, or trade for somebody. I want to see, obviously, Doc needs to sign off on it. I want to see Mook and Freddie and probably Shohei. And if it's a pitcher, Bueller, Kirsch, Trinan, those are leaders. Got to get all those guys back first.
And this was the first team where I felt that I could ask you guys to do anything, and you guys were going to do it without questioning. And there was trust. And I'm a very trusting person. Mm-hmm. I trust people. And so this was, again, Mook, this was a team that really epitomized who I am as a person. So that's like the ultimate thing for a leader of men.
And I want to know, like, for me, when you were going through, as we were going through the postseason, Pages was playing a good amount, and Tommy was playing center sometimes, and whatever. And then Kike, right? Kike was playing, and he'd be kind of on a day, off a day, or whatever. And then Kike kind of started getting hot, right? And during the regular season, I want to know, like, how you view that. During the regular season, would you still tell Kike, like, put Kike in every day, or was it like, you know what, this is the postseason, it's more of a sprint, I'm going to play the hot bat, or, how that perspective? How do you...
Yeah, the Kike Hernandez story. I mean, he's a really good ball player in a lot of ways. He has his good moments and bad moments, but he plays all over the field. It's really an amazing thing what he can do, and then he steps it up.
It changes, and I think that's part of my growth as well as a manager, because I think one of my strengths is I'm pretty slow moving. So a guy is struggling, I'm going to still ride him out and stay with him. A pitcher struggling, I'm going to still run him out there.
That's how
that explains quite a bit, doesn't it? That we see. He sticks with some guys for quite a while.
Build growth and believe in your
growth, and then that's right, because it's a hard game. It is a marathon of a game. But I think it can also be a weakness because I am sometimes too slow to react. And that's a fair self-assessment. But also my growth in the postseason is you do have to step back. You do have to play the hot hand. You can't be afraid to play the hot hand. I moved the lineup around a lot during the postseason, more than I ever have.
It's a good thing to see, because that was a criticism that I had beforehand, was go with a hot hand. Like that one time Logan Forsythe was doing really well, and then he doesn't start him in Game 2 of the World Series, and that cost him on a play. Utley couldn't get a ball that Reddick hit, and the guy ended up scoring, and that was pretty early, third inning. So I think he would have played things differently.
Because I felt that certain guys I wanted to get up there more often, and I felt there were going to be bigger spots. And when I moved certain guys down, there was still no complaining about it. They bought in. They didn't use it as an excuse, and now they're hitting lower in the order. They were ready when called upon. So to your Kike question, there was no hotter player in the postseason. His pedigree has shown that he earned those rights, and maybe in the past I might have tried to play him a little bit more sparingly and pick spots, but this year I just felt the matchup didn't matter. Kike had to be in the lineup, and he was put on planet Earth to play in big World Series games.
That's a fact.
And so I was going to ride with him no matter what.
Okay, so going in, we're
so if you look at Kike, right, you go, we've seen where he is hot, cold, and everything like that. But if Doc didn't do that, he wouldn't have been in that lineup against Darvish. He wouldn't have hit that home run. It would have been 1-0, which is a lot tighter than 2-0. 2-0 is tough too. But he was able to make some actual decisions that really, really paid off, putting players in their best position, riding a hot hand. Kike Hernandez rises to the occasion. So we've jumped a bit now to a new section. We skipped a few things that I didn't think were that. They were good, but, go watch the whole thing. But this is more dealing with some superlatives. And it's interesting, again, what we hear from Dave Roberts.
Some superlatives I want you to give out. All right. I think I know the answer. I think all of America knows the answer to this question. But who's the funniest player on the team?
Kike Hernandez.
Yep. Didn't take long.
Yeah, not even close.
So there you go. Managing Kike as the player, I'm sure, is really easy. It's really easy. He's a gamer.
The player, very easy.
But what about the person?
very, very difficult. And I say this because I've had Kike and we've grown together. He is as smart of a baseball player as I've ever been
I
around.
hardly agree.
And as talented, so the challenge for Kike is to have that same focus and tenacity that he has in the postseason, in the regular season. And not all people can do that.
It's a
Interesting, isn't it? But again, it talks about it. He's smart. Dude's super smart. Guy has a huge future once he's done with baseball from a player's perspective.
long time.
It's a long time. And so that's where he and I have gone back and forth, but we got so much love for each other, and he's helped me win 2 championships, and he's been a big, big part of it. And so we've never been closer.
Yeah. Okay, what about this? Who's gonna be the last? Who would be the last one to show up in the clubhouse?
Well, the last one to show up in the clubhouse is Teoscar.
I think that would be Teo.
I think it's Teo. And the thing is,
100%.
100%. But the dude shows up every day ready to play.
Ready to play.
Right? And so sometimes it's like
Teo's just built different. I've seen him, up close in the locker room, things like that. Not too much, but enough. Dude, just casual, smiling, but he's out there ready to play baseball.
watch that people will show up at noon because they're there and they're on their phones. They're not getting any better. They're not working. So if you're just going to sit on your phone in front of your lockers, stay your ass at home.
Yep.
And Teo gets that. He's like, when I show up, I'm ready to work.
I remember, Doc, the very first time I saw him, but one day game in particular, I forgot what city we were in. And the game was at 108 or something, 110. And it was 102. And Teo hadn't started hitting yet. He hadn't swung the bat yet. And I had anxiety for him. I had already hit twice. I'm sweating. I'm ready to go. I ran out on the field. Teo got his little back warmer. He got both his bats. And I'm like, Teo, you haven't hit yet? He said, nah, I'm hitting fourth. I'm good. I said, Teo, the game's in 5 minutes, bro. The game's in, no,
Teo's just different.
I'm good. First pitch he sees, liner single up the middle. I'm like, what in the world? How?
So I'm glad I didn't know that story.
Oh, what?
Because he would have given me anxiety too.
Yeah.
But that's just one of those old school winter ball things where you just sort of show up, grab your bat, you do a couple toe touches, and then you're ready to go.
I mean, and he just,
right?
What? Yeah.
But that speaks to the anxiety, where sometimes people want it so bad, they try so hard, and that's an impediment. Where Teo's just found that little sweet spot and knows what it takes me mentally to get ready to get some knocks.
Yeah. Okay, so what about this? Who
Teo's just interesting. I think, man, I really want him back.
Talks the most trash on the team?
Who talks the most trash on the team? Walker Buehler.
I was going to go with Austin Barnes.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Austin, yeah.
But Buehler is...
Yeah. Austin,
Buehler's like any... Austin does too.
Austin, you know what? Austin talks a lot of trash, but it's more with you guys.
Yeah.
When I'm around, Buehler has no filter with anybody.
Anybody,
around.
okay. Anybody
Austin gives me the
back
respect
Walker
that
Buehler.
he tempers a little bit when I'm around.
Buehler doesn't care?
Buehler doesn't care. So...
Hey, that's awesome, and that's the relationship that they have. As we heard earlier about him calling out Walker Buehler. It's pretty cool. Bring back Walker Buehler.
Believe me, there's shots fired his way from my mouth as well.
I think that's why we want him on the mound, in the ninth inning, because he doesn't care.
Absolutely.
He really doesn't. Okay, so what about this? Who has the dirtiest locker?
Gavin Lux.
Golly.
Who I don't want to marry my daughter, Gavin Lux.
Well, okay,
Who I don't want watching my puppy, Gavin Lux.
Wait, why?
But this is what all the players say. This is what I'm gathering from the players. I'm going to have a talk with Gavin, so we're going to change that narrative.
Poor Gavin Lux.
Yeah, we got to work on it.
We're going to work on that.
He's a great dude. He's not he just don't really care. I get it later.
His frontal lobe just hasn't fully developed yet. That's what it is.
On that part, yeah.
That's
Poor
right.
Gavin
But I love Gavin.
Anything else, though? I mean, he's great.
That's right.
So, okay, what about this? 2 more.
Let's not forget what Mookie did for Gavin Lux. Volunteered to play shortstop so Gavin could play second after Lux had all his problems in spring training. He doesn't mention it, but Mookie, that's a lot of Mookie there.
Who's most likely to become a manager?
The person or persons that
Austin Barnes
have a good chance. I think Mickey Rose got a very good chance. He certainly, like all people, has some growth to do on that side of things. to not always think like a player, because you got to kind of flip it. I think he has the skill set, the knowledge. I think Kike has the knowledge and the skill set to be a manager as well. I think he's got to, as he grows up more.
Does that surprise any of y'all that he said Kike? No, I'm sure Miggy Rowe was not a surprise. But does it surprise you about Kike? It surprised me at first, but then it's like, because I always thought of Kike as future announcer, things like that. But manager, it's pretty cool that he thinks that highly of him. So, and like you said earlier, we saw earlier, he talks about how smart he is as a ball player.
And matures to be able to manage up, to be able to manage the media. You just got to have somewhat of a filter,
right?
Because your words are kind of, you're going to have more accountability when you're a manager and not a player.
Jeez.
So if he can kind of wrap his head around that, I think he's got a good shot as well.
Okay. And then the last one, most important question. Who would you ask to play in a golf tournament with you?
Oh, none other than Fitty, Mookie Betts.
I would say Will Smith, though.
No, I want you, because the thing is, though, is that we're getting strokes too.
Oh, yeah.
See, so for the people that don't know about golf,
see,
so when you're like a one handicap like Will Smith, you're like a scratch.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you got to play like lights out. See, Mookie's like they call a sandbagger. So he says he's like a 12 or a 13 index, but he's like a 5 or a 6. So we're going to take that 12 or 13 index to the golf course, and we're going to take everybody's money. So for you, I'm taking you.
All right. We're going to make that happen.
Yeah.
Mookie's good at everything, folks. It's just kind of amazing what he can do. You can see how good he is at interviewing too, can't you? He's pretty darn amazing. All right, we got next section is gonna be talking. He's gonna be taking some fan questions. I think they're pretty interesting and worth talking about. So let's go back to Dookie Butts and Doc.
Okay. Freddie's homer. Where does it rank among your baseball moments that you've been a part of?
Greatest moment I've ever been a part of.
Even better than your base?
Even
I guess
better
your
than my
base was kind of in the midst of a game.
In the midst of a game. And then it took David Ortiz to hit a walk-off for my game to matter, right? That right there was a deciding World Series game, set the tone for 2024. Yankees at Dodger Stadium. Down, Freddie hits a walk-off.
I mean, first pitch, dude.
First pitch.
And Booney, like, I got walked. And honestly, I thought that was probably the right move.
It was the right move.
Now, I wholeheartly understood if he let that happen. I get it. But I think
it's just freaking legendary. It's not Gibson-ish, but it's close. And given what Freddie had went through, more emotionally with his family and everything like that, amazing. Kirk Gibson could barely even move, but they both are heart like a lion.
In the flow of the game, I think that's probably the right move.
And that's the thing, is that in the flow of the game, that's the hard part about, there's matchups, there's the flow of the game, there's who you're willing to fail with or who you're willing to beat you. All those things matter, especially when you're talking about the postseason. And that's something for me I've had a lot of resolve with the experiences, successes, some failures, and that's what I've come to. And again, things sometimes work out. He could have popped up like Shohei popped up, but he didn't, and that right there is the best baseball moment I've ever been a part of.
It's really cool. And for all of us, for people who were there, congratulations for being there for sure. And then, just for us watching it, it's a moment that Freddie Freeman will forever be a Dodger legend. When he's going into the Hall of Fame, probably as a Brave, the first thing we're going to think about is that home run. Facts.
That's yeah, I mean, I have to agree with that. Okay, so in 2020 and 24, which one was tougher?
All right, get ready, especially you people that think it's a Mickey Mouse.
And tougher all together because you had, obviously, the run, the Padres series and the Mets and the Yankees and X, Y, and Z, but then we had the bubble. And we had to go, be in a bubble. We had to get tests every day. We were in a hotel room for a month straight. So they both had their challenges. But which one would you say was?
2020 was harder. 2020 was harder.
And people say that's a that Mickey Mouse ran, X, Y, and Z, all
people
that
talk, that's just what the world, unfortunately, has become, very cynical. All you have to do is you go back to 20 and realize how confining, how miserable it was for everyone. And then so now to keep morale and focus where people weren't with their families, we were isolated, there were no fans, to keep people motivated to be playing good baseball. And we had to win more games too anyway. And so for me, it's without a doubt harder. People that just didn't live what we went through, that's their default
wouldn't
answer.
understand.
Anyone who was watching games in 2020 and rooting for their team to win and celebrating winning a division or getting the playoffs or winning a wild card, Padre fans, anything like that, anyone who was following that, I have a tweet out there before the season started. I declared in my head this season started. There's a very few people that actually made any type of declaration like that the other way. So just, you all keep saying that stuff, but I think it's just silly.
They just don't understand it. And if you know, you know. It's one of those things. If you were there, if you weren't there, you just don't know and can't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was harder. But this, I will say, I got more satisfaction because ultimately we got to enjoy all the fruits.
Yep. Yeah. The parade and whatnot. So, and before I let you go, take
That
me
parade
through
matters.
the parade day. I mean, you won, and it was like, I think, a day or 2 days later. And so you got a little time to recollect and chill and whatnot. So take me through those couple of days, being Dave Robertson and having 2 rings in the last, 4 years?
2 years, yeah, 2 rings in the last 4 years. I think it was, 20 was relief. This was sheer joy. And I told myself, I told the coaches, I went around and told the players, front office, I was like, guys, we've got to enjoy this to the fullest. Because,
And I think as a fan, I feel the same way. 2020 was much a relief. We had been through so much already. We'd been through, 2017, and then but right before 2020 is when we found out about all the cheating. But 2017, they should have won that anyway. And 2018, the disappointments there where Puig had hit the home run, like we're right there, and then boom. Those are some mistakes Doc made. I'm sure he would admit if you'd have talked to him, he'd go, hey, there's some of those things were they didn't work out, and part of it was my call. And 2019 was such a huge disappointment where, that was after 2019 when he brought Kersh in, that was the hardest I've ever seen people going after Dave. There was a lot of fire Dave Roberts things going on. My man Marshall Garvey wrote a great article in 2019 for Dodgers Nation about that. And it got a lot of views. It was a huge, huge article. So 2020 was that relief. Just like, oh, thank goodness. 2024, I would say that getting through the Padres, like they said, was that relief. And then the rest was like, let's go.
it's been since 1988 that this city has had a parade, and you and I are close to Magic, and Los Angeles is a city of champions. And Los Angeles doesn't accept second place, as we well know. And so with that, once we were gearing up for the parade, I was like ready to go, ready to party. And I didn't expect to see all those fans, like the sea of blue all over the city of Los Angeles. Those images are embedded in my head forever. And then,
so we're going to go to one more little section here. All right, this last section is going to be talking about the pressure on Mookie Betts. We saw what 2022 and 2023, he was bad in the postseason. And so some of this will be a little talk about that.
All right, so Doc, I'm gonna let you roll, man. But look, we had a lot of talks this year. Me and I would just call you random nights on the phone, and we would talk all the time. And I think we had a lot at stake this year. We had a lot of similar things. Like we both really needed to win.
We did, because a lot of people were kind of, hating on you and I, right?
Yeah.
It's not hate. It's valid criticism. If you people, just a life lesson, criticism is not hate. If your boss is being critical of you, where he doesn't hate you, he needs you to do something different. That's all it is. It's not hate. Stop using the term, folks. And Doc, don't use that term. It's terrible. It's criticism, and it was valid. You don't have to like it, and a lot of people don't like criticism, but if you can't take criticism, and Doc actually takes the criticism, I'm sure he does. He gets it from from his bosses himself, I'm sure. But criticism is just part of life. If you want to get better, listen to the critics. If the critics are wrong, you'll filter those out. You'll find that there's some critics that are worth listening to.
Going into this postseason. So there was like you and I a lot, because in years past, it's always like me and Kershaw.
Mm-hmm.
This year was like me and you.
Mm-hmm. And, we talked about it. We knew. We were like, you know what? We got to win. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts, like for my legacy, for your legacy.
That's right.
Obviously, we want to win for the Dodgers, but we want to win for our legacies as well. Like, this is another reason why we do it. And so, it was super dope knowing all the talks we had all year, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And it all came into fruition. So it was, and the way you did it, the way you went about it, the way you really, this is the first time that I really felt like you controlled us. Like, you really controlled us. You were like, nope. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. This is my guy. You know what I'm saying?
So really, again, that's more of the growth where Dave maybe was starting to, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Maybe he started deviating a little bit from some of the plans. Maybe he's, trying to read those vibes, and maybe they were letting him do that too. Let's hope so. I mean, I want a manager to actually manage and not be a robot. And I think Dave's really what he did in the postseason, folks, is legendary. It's legendary. That was some great managing. We can nitpick, and there was a couple times I nitpick. I can't even remember them, though. It's okay. But overall, you got to go, well, what's his grade? Oh, it's an A+. Did he miss one? Maybe. So 99. He gets a 99. A+.
It's the first year I felt like I did it, without a doubt. But again, Mook, I just knew that this team trusted me. And I had a responsibility to do everything I could. And I'm going to hurt some feelings, and that's part of my job. But at the end of the day, you guys knew, without a doubt, I was doing it for you guys individually and collectively. And we just couldn't be denied this year, man. We needed to win the championship.
Yeah. And we got, obviously, we got more work to do. But I just want everyone out there to know, like, Doc, first ballot Hall of Famer right here. We got
I'm gonna hold his place. If this thing happens, I'm gonna hold his place.
You're looking at two Hall of Famers, folks. Doc is going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's going to have one of the highest winning percentages of all time. He's going to have at least 2 World Series. I think he's going to have a few more. He's going in the Hall of Fame, folks. This is a Hall of Fame manager now. He's a walk and talk. Him and Bruce Bochy are Hall of Fame managers for sure. I don't think there's anyone else active that's a Hall of Fame manager that I can see. And Mookie Betts is, geez, what a player.
Anyways, Doc, thanks for coming on, man. And I'm looking forward to getting us some more rings. But right now, I know you got your world tour you're going on. So enjoy your World Series, man. And we'll see you in spring training.
Oh, Mookie, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. It's good to be on base with Mookie Betts. And
you notice he just had to look there.
I'm going to take myself to Europe, do a Japan, and this World Series tour ain't stopping for me.
There you go, Doc. And that's the recording there of the reaction there. And all right, this last section is going to be talking about the pressure on Mookie Betts. I mean, we saw what 2022 and 2023. He was bad in the postseason. And so some of this will be a little talk about that.
All right, so Doc, I'm gonna let you roll, man. But look, we had a lot of talks this year. Me and I would just call you random nights on the phone, and we would talk all the time. And I think we had a lot at stake this year. We had a lot of similar things. Like we both really needed to win.
We did, because a lot of people were kind of, hating on you and I, right?
Yeah,
it's not hate. It's valid criticism. If you people, just a life lesson, criticism is not hate. If your boss is being critical of you at work, he doesn't hate you. He needs you to do something different. That's all it is. It's not hate. Stop using the term, folks. And Doc, don't use that term. It's terrible. It's criticism, and it was valid. You don't have to like it, and a lot of people don't like criticism, but if you can't take criticism, and Doc actually takes the criticism, I'm sure he does. He gets it from from his bosses himself, I'm sure. But criticism is just part of life. If you want to get better, listen to the critics. If the critics are wrong, you'll filter those out. You'll find that there's some critics that are worth listening to.
Going into this postseason. So there was like you and I a lot, because in years past, it's always like me and Kershaw. This year was like me and you.
And, we talked about it. We knew. We were like, you know what? We got to win. Like, there's no if, ands, or buts, like for my legacy, for your legacy.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
Obviously, we want to win for the Dodgers, but we want to win for our legacies as well. Like, this is why another reason why we do it. And so, it was super dope knowing all the talks we had all year, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And it all came into fruition. So it was, and the way you did it, the way you went about it, the way you really, this is the first time that I really felt like you controlled us. Like, you really controlled us. You were like, nope. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. This is my guy. You know what I'm saying?
So really, again, that's more of the growth where Dave maybe was starting to, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Maybe he started deviating a little bit from some of the plans. Maybe he's, trying to read those vibes, and maybe they were letting him do that too. Let's hope so. I mean, I want a manager to actually manage and not be a robot. And I think Dave's really what he did in the postseason, folks, is legendary. It's legendary. That was some great managing. We can nitpick, and there was a couple times I nitpick. I can't even remember them, though. It's okay. But overall, you got to go, well, what's his grade? Oh, it's an A+. Did he miss one? Maybe. So 99. He gets a 99. A+.
It's the first year I felt like I did it, without a doubt. But again, Mook, I just knew that this team trusted me. And I had a responsibility to do everything I could. And I'm going to hurt some feelings, and that's part of my job. But at the end of the day, you guys knew, without a doubt, I was doing it for you guys individually and collectively. And we just couldn't be denied this year, man. We needed to win the championship.
Yeah. And we got, obviously, we got more work to do. But I just want everyone out there to know, like, Doc, first ballot Hall of Famer right here. We got
I'm gonna hold his place. If this thing happens, I'm gonna hold his place.
You're looking at two Hall of Famers, folks. Doc is going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's going to have one of the highest winning percentages of all time. He's going to have at least 2 World Series. I think he's going to have a few more. He's going in the Hall of Fame, folks. This is a Hall of Fame manager now. He's a walk and talk. Him and Bruce Bochy are Hall of Fame managers for sure. I don't think there's anyone else active that's a Hall of Fame manager that I can see. And Mookie Betts is, geez, what a player.
Anyways, Doc, thanks for coming on, man. And I'm looking forward to getting us some more rings. But right now, I know you got your world tour you're going on. So enjoy your World Series, man. And we'll see you in spring training.
Oh, Mookie, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. It's good to be on base with Mookie Betts. And
you notice he just had to look there.
I'm going to take myself to Europe, do a Japan, and this World Series tour ain't stopping for me.
There you go, Doc. And that's the recording there of the reaction there, and so I just thought that was epic, and I hope I don't get struck too hard. You'll see on the last thing, of course, you'll see that the next one on deck was Mookie Betts with Fernando Tatis, and I still think that was in bad form. That was bad form. And I think that I think those are things that Mookie needs to be a little careful of. There's some sensitivity, folks. Yeah, but in Mookie's really good at this. I know, and I get why he's doing it. He can't do this in the off season much because players are gone. Everyone's just distributed and all that. He gets players when he can. But the one with Tatis just looked really bad because it went off the day after the Padres knocked him off and clinched a playoff spot. So that was not my favorite thing. But in general, how impressive. I think it's a super impressive presentation. Again, Bleacher Report, please don't hit me too hard. I really appreciate the work that they do. And specifically Mookie Betts. He's a fantastic interviewer. I really appreciate the opening up that we saw. I love the behind the scenes stuff. I'm hoping, the Andy McCulloughs of the world are writing that book, or whoever it is. Someone needs to be writing that book. Tim Neverett covered the 2020 season really well. Maybe he's writing this one too. I'm going to reach out to him and see what he has to say, because he worked a lot of the games this year with Charlie Steiner out. I know Steve Nelson did a lot of work, but Steve also did a lot of TV, so Tim Neverett had a lot of time. So I'm going to reach out to him. But I'm enjoying reflecting on this season. That's for sure. And and this is just again getting the inside parts of this was awesome. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. As always, God bless, and go Dodgers.